Yo, what's good, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages? How's it going? We are here. We got another show to go with today. How is everybody doing? What's up? I know I'm late, Alonzo. 2 minutes late and 3 minutes late now. Sorry about that. 49ers Throwback on Twitter said I was going to be late by like 40 minutes, but my daughter had a question for me, so had to answer that before we start. But how's it go? Better late than never. We got a game this week, and it's officially Rams week, and now we need to know, what are the Niners going to do to fix the issue that we had last week? Can we turn it around? Are the Rams the medicine that we need? Usually when the Niners are struggling and slumping, or traditionally over the last couple of years, it's like we play the Rams and it's like good medicine for them. If you're not feeling good, you take your medicine, and the Rams are the medicine for the 49ers, except in the NFC Championship, but that's a whole nother story for another day. So can the Niners get back on track? We have to talk about that today. What is up, everybody? How's it going? Hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. Do all that good stuff. But here we are, another day. And we got to talk about the Rams and the 49ers. There was some news before we get into everything. Tevin Coleman was released. Running back Tevin Coleman, they brought him along this year. They've had some depth issues with running backs getting hurt. Elijah Mitchell was hurt. They had Marlon Mack. They didn't really utilize him. TDP was hurt, so they brought in Tevin Coleman, but they cut him today, or they released him today. They might bring him back to the practice squad eventually, and that's what I'm thinking. But it leaves a roster spot open. And tomorrow, we've talked about this already. Tomorrow, they have to decide if Jason Verrett is going to be activated from the physically unable to perform list. So this roster spot is basically saying, if they're going to clear Jason Verrett, this is the open spot that they need for it. So I think it clears the way for them to get Jason Verrett back. We'll probably get that news tomorrow. That's what I'm looking into. We'll see. Again, it's probably the move that they get unless they bring in somebody else. But if Jason Verrett is healthy enough to go, they'll put him on the roster. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to play just because he's activated. It means that they can keep him on the roster, stash him, and now if he's healthy enough, they can say, okay, we can use Jason Verrett. But that's kind of the sense that I get, that Jason Verrett will be activated and placed on the roster tomorrow. That's my guess. I could be completely wrong. Again, it's just my prediction, but we'll see. Maybe we'll have breaking news tomorrow, right? Mitchell comes back in the game against the Chargers, so they got a little bit of time for that, with Elijah Mitchell. So when Mitchell comes back, are we going to have 5 running backs or cut another running back? Most likely. I mean, you're going to have that much running backs. You're probably going to have to move one to the practice squad. You got Jeff Wilson, you got TDP, you got CMC. Obviously, you get CMC. Some of these guys are a little expendable, and Jordan Mason, who they don't use. But they got a lot of younger guys, TDP and Jordan Mason on this roster, Elijah Mitchell. So those 3 guys will, be in the mix somewhere, and Jeff Wilson and Christian McCaffrey. I mean, do you need all those running backs? You need depth, but if you have Christian McCaffrey, that really opens it up for, the offense. And then you got to remember, it's not like they're going to use all of them. So it's more of a rotation of 2 running backs that do a little bit different in the run game. When 2019, when they had Mostert and Breida, it was a double rotation, right? And Breida was able to do things that Mostert couldn't do. Mostert did things that Breida couldn't do. They're both fast running backs, but they utilized them in a little bit different ways. And also it helped keep their legs fresh. So you don't want to get CMC hurt. So you got to rotate one of these guys, Elijah Mitchell most likely, and CMC. That'll be a dynamic 1-2 punch. So it'll be fun when we get Mitchell back, most likely against the Chargers. So Alonzo says, I kind of worried the Rams had 2 weeks to prepare. I mean, this is definitely going to be a big game. The Rams get an extra week. The Niners are licking their wounds coming off a big loss to Kansas City. So that's why I said, it's not going to be an easy game against the Rams. They're pissed off. The Niners usually get a big dub against them in the regular season. Again, they're the medicine, the 49ers medicine. The doctor tells you, yo, I need you to take this medicine. The doctor tells the 49ers, I need you to go play I need you to go play the Rams. That's your medicine. And the Rams know that. They're probably a little pissed off about playing the Niners and all the stuff that they've gone through. And Sean McVay, he talked about the Niners getting Christian McCaffrey. We posted that earlier, right? He was shocked. He was like, "Oh shit!" Did you see Sean McVay's reaction to getting Christian McCaffrey? They asked him, "So what did you think about 49ers trading for Christian McCaffrey?" He's like, "Oh shit, they got another good player." Like, he's probably like, "Oh man, okay." It bothered him. I mean, he was very respectful in his answer. Actually, like, very respectful answer. And he said, they got a great player. It's going to add to them. But, he's got a game plan for that. So, that's a notch on the Niners belt right there. And I'm sure that the Rams would love to beat the Niners and say, hey, you went and got CMC. You traded these picks just so we couldn't get them and we beat you. Like, the Rams want that. They want to beat the Niners and say, haha, we beat you even though you got Christian McCaffrey instead of us. Like, they want that. And again, Jalen Ramsey was punked after the Niners beat him last week, right? Or last couple weeks ago. Jalen Ramsey was absolutely punked. Deebo Samuel, the video he posted, uh-oh! And when he shook Jalen Ramsey and he posted that video, like, that thing went viral. Jalen Ramsey's mad. He's pissed. You think he wants to go out there and get embarrassed again? He doesn't want to get embarrassed again. So this is a big game, NFC West game. And you got to keep winning these division games. This is a monumental game. I think the Niners could get back on track because, again, the Niners play the Rams well. They know each other's tendencies. Both teams, it's a very evenly matched up game. The Niners know how to scheme for Aaron Donald. I mean, he's tough. They know how to triple team the guy and take him out a little bit. They know how to take out Jalen Ramsey. Cooper Kupp's going to get his stats, but he still tears it up. Cooper Kupp still tears it up. So it's going to be a battle. And now we don't have Emmanuel Mosley. Emmanuel Mosley was a huge loss. And now the Niners have to go up against the Rams with Cooper Kupp and no Emmanuel Mosley. And Travis Ward had his worst game as a Niner. Probably one of the worst games of his career coming into this game. So he's going to want to kind of bounce back. But the Cooper Kupp, man, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. What's up, Raphael? Appreciate you. Dominic says, is the rest of the schedule winnable? I mean, you can't really sit there and say every game is winnable. Like, you can't say there's easy games because the Niners have lost the easy games, right? The Bears lost it. The Broncos should have won that game. Atlanta probably should have won that game. And, not every game is easy. There is some games, if you look around the schedule, like, oh, we should beat that. The Saints, right? The Saints are a team that are really not playing good. Bad quarterback play. Should be able to beat them. They got the Raiders who've been kind of inconsistent. You should be able to beat them. But you never know any given Sunday, There's a couple other teams that, are probably winnable games. But, Arizona, that's a team that you look at their team right now. They're not doing great. We should be able to beat them. But it's a NFC West battle. Division games are tough. No matter what your record is, that's going to be a battle, So there are winnable games. Then you got Miami. That's not going to be easy. They're playing great, especially with Tua back in the frame. They got 2 top 5 receivers right now. Then you got the Buccaneers who are struggling, but you never know. Maybe they'll catch fire. So you do have some games that you should be able to win, but it's not guaranteed. I think the Saints game is definitely winnable. And then they got Washington Commanders. They're terrible, but you never know. You just never know. I'm not going to say that any of those games are easy because it's any given Sunday, right? Every game is a must-win, right? In order to go 10-3, or in order to get 10 wins, the Niners need to win 7 games. Their remaining games. They got to win 7 games to win 10 games. And I think 10 games is the magic number to get into the playoffs in the NFC. It probably wins the NFC West is my guess. You got a big game against Seattle on Thursday night in a few weeks. That's tough. That's a big game. Emerald City, they're going to be up for that game. We beat them the first time. You don't think they want to lose 2 times in a row. They don't want to get swept. And not to mention, they're playing better since that time we played them early in the season. Geno Smith is getting better. Pete Carroll's getting better. Tariq Woolen is becoming a standout rookie. So it's not going to be – and Kenneth Walker, he's becoming a standout rookie himself. Like, their draft class is looking great, So got some big games coming up. It's going to be a tough games. Dominic says, do you think this is going to be another situation like last year when we were 3-5 and ended up 10-7? It very well likely. It can be, and that's what we've talked about all week is, the Niners have to win this game. You don't want to go into the bye week 3-5 because, like we just talked about, there's a lot of tough games. There's a lot of games that are uncertain. You can't just expect to win. You can't just expect to go 3-5 and say, "Oh, we did it last year. We're going to do it again." Like, I know they did it, and I think this team is, able to pull through adversity, and they have great stars and they have a great team. But going 3-5, I mean, that's mentally tough. You got to think about it for 2 weeks, because if they lose this week, you don't play the next week because it's the bye week. Then you have a whole nother week to prepare. You're literally thinking about your loss for 2 weeks. Mentally, that's tough. So you don't want to go into this situation 3-5. I mean, can they pull themselves out of the grave? Yes, they can. But the games aren't easy. Like I said, Miami, Tampa Bay, you have the Chargers, you have Seattle, you got Arizona and Mexico. You got some tough games coming up, So it's doable, but it's not a guarantee. Like, you can't just sit there and think it's gonna happen because it did last year. So I don't know. You don't want to be in a 3-5 situation, because then again, like I said, you have to win 7 games, and the more you start losing, that window gets smaller and smaller, and then every game basically you have to win. It becomes a must-win situation, and you have no room for error. Very small room for error. Last year there was a couple miracles. The Bengals game, I mean, oh my God, that was a thriller in the jungle. The fact they won that game, it was crazy. The walk-off touchdown from Brandon Ayuk, oh my God. Nick Bosa was tearing it up in that game, and so was Armstead. And we don't even have Armstead right now. And, we got some players that have been battling through injury, so you don't want to put yourself in a hole. And then you also got to remember that Rams game at the end of the season. Rams game, if Ambry Thomas doesn't make that interception, we don't make the playoffs. And then Houston, right? Houston was a tough game. You had Trey Lance coming in. Jimmy was hurt, and he wet the bed in Tennessee, and it put us in a must-win situation. If they don't beat Houston, the Rams game didn't even matter. So you put yourself in a bind. So you don't want to go 3-5. Everything kind of fell their way last year. They got a lot of luck. All right, everything fell their way last year the way it should have. You don't know if history is going to repeat itself. Like, you can't just sit there and hope you get luck, because part of football, part of sports, there has to be a little luck involved. Like, honestly, like, it's not just always skill. There's luck involved. And last year the Niners had a lot of luck, and I was just like, how? But I was happy with a lot of luck was involved. Oh man, let's hope they pull off the win on Sunday. They need it, Erica. Absolutely. And I think they can get out, if they win this game, that's a big momentum shifter. Like we just talked about, if they go 3-5 and you go into the bye, yeah, that's a tough vibe. But if you beat the Rams, go into the bye, and you're like, man, we just won against the Rams twice this year. We're 3-0 in the division. Like, that is what you want. You want the motivation. And that's why I think they can bounce back right now. And if they beat the Rams, that's the key. And that's how it starts. If you want to bounce back, if you're the Niners and you want to get back to where you need to be, you got to get to 500. You got to beat the Rams, and you have to go into the bye week with a good mentality. You have to beat them and have momentum, because if you don't have momentum going into the bye, it's going to be a long 2 weeks. You guys know how it feels when you lose, right? Like, when the Niners lose on Sunday, that week until the next game, it feels like a year. It feels like a year. Now imagine you lose on Sunday, and you have to wait a whole extra week because of the bye week. That's going to feel like 3 years. That's going to feel like 3 years. So they got to win, man. And that starts with Sunday against the Rams. That is how you get back on track. Prime time, big game. You got to play the Rams to your best abilities. You got to get into the bye week with confidence. So that's where it is. You got to beat the Rams. All right, we need it. You're absolutely right, Erica. You got to score more than 2 touchdowns, says Eric. 100%. You cannot lose these games because of poor offensive execution. You got to score points, man. Bottom line, defense can't give up 44 points. Like, that was just a piss poor performance. And the Rams are, again, a team that we match up against. We should be able to score against them. We can't let them score points on us, because if we do, man, when the Niners start getting into a deficit and they start trailing games, that's when they dig themselves deep into a hole, and it's hard for them to come back. So, honestly, yeah, you have to be able to score points fast. If they can get up to a lead, that's the key. Alonzo says, I can't wait to see CMC play Sunday. That's going to be a mess. It's going to be amazing. Well, we got bots in here. The bots have arrived on YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. You gotta be kidding me. Bots, man. Unbelievable. But yeah, I do want to see CMC. I was happy to see him on Sunday this week. That was fun, right? He made a good debut, and he's only going to get better. Christian McCaffrey's only going to get better as the season comes along with the Niners, because he was on the team Friday. He flew to the Bay, took a physical, met with the team. He went on the field, did his thing. He had his press conference Saturday. He hit the books. Shanahan told him, "Here's your plays you got to learn." He came in Sunday and he had a pretty decent game for having to do all that before the game, and then now he's got a week to prepare. He's going to actually be in practice this week. He's actually going to be able to go and practice with the 49ers starting tomorrow instead of just being rushed in there and talking to the team and, getting his locker room. There was just a lot going on. So now he has more chance to prepare, can watch the film. He's going to have a bigger game and a huge impact this week, I think. And you got to think he's going to have a bigger impact, especially if Debo is nursing a hamstring injury. We don't know his situation right now. We'll see what happens in practice tomorrow, but Debo Samuel has a hamstring injury. So whatever happens with Debo, you're going to get a bigger caseload for Christian McCaffrey. So he's going to be up to speed a little bit more with the offense. I think we're going to have a nice game from CMC. So this is a big question. This is a big comment right here. Myth Vibes, no juice for the Rams game worries me a bit for blocking, but hopefully we'll be fine. And this is a comment we got to talk about. So yesterday, the news broke that Kyle Juszczyk broke his hand, dislocated his finger. He had a broken finger, so he had to have surgery yesterday. That's tough. Broken finger. He went and had surgery. He's out for the Rams. And Kyle Juszczyk, like Myth Vibe said, he's so incredibly important for the blocking. I went and watched the film today and a little bit last night, and I was watching the run, just McCaffrey. I was watching CMC specifically on his plays, and all his big runs basically were right behind Trent and right behind Juice. Juice was paving the way, and he's such a big-time blocker for this offense. So without Juice, they're going to have Ross Dwelley kind of fill in that spot. He's done it before. Ross Dwelley's played fullback in relief of Kyle Juszczyk. So I agree, Mitt. This is a huge, huge loss for the 49ers run game. And they rely on the run, right? They rely on the run game to establish everything, and we want CMC to be able to do his thing. But without Kyle Juszczyk, it's going to be a lot tougher. Now you expect George Kittle to have to pull his weight in the blocking game more. So you pull George Kittle out of the passing game again and into the blocking, spear, because he's basically a lineman at this point that can catch a couple plays. So now you have George Kittle. He's going to have to block. You got Ross Dwelley, who's going to have to play fullback. That's what he's done in the past. So it changes things a lot, Myth, and I 100% agree. This is a huge development. So it's unfortunate that Kyle Juszczyk's not going to be able to play in the game. Alonzo says, do you think McGlinchey gets benched soon? I don't think so, because unfortunately for them, they don't really have another player that can play right tackle, effectively. It's just probably going to be the same thing. I mean, I know Dan Brunskill could come in and play right tackle, but is he more effective than McGlinchey in the run blocking game? It's probably the same. It is kind of tough to see that. What was I going to say? It is kind of tough to see McGlinchey get beat out there a lot. It's unfortunate. You just got to ride with who you have. There's really not a lot of options at right tackle. You got to keep shifting the line, and then that breaks up the cohesion and the chemistry. You just got to hope that McGlinchey doesn't get bullied a lot. Traditionally, he's played pretty good against the Rams overall, but you're right. Maybe they throw Brunskill in a little bit more to help this line. And also, you would hope that Trent Williams is a little bit more healthy, because he didn't look like himself on Sunday against the Chiefs. He definitely was favoring that ankle. He didn't look too fast. He was slow. He was gimping a little. Got beat on the edge by Frank Clark a couple times and led to that safety. So hopefully Trent Williams is up to speed this week, a little bit better, a little bit healthier. But shout out to the linemen, Burford and Banks. Played great this weekend. They've been holding their own. We need the rest of the offensive line to step up, and especially those tackles. If you can't play good at the tackle spot, your quarterback's going to get eaten alive, especially Jimmy, because he doesn't have the mobility, and he holds the ball when he's under pressure. So you have to be able to keep Jimmy upright and keep his jersey clean, So you're right. I agree. It's going to be tough to see McGlinchey, but I just don't see. I mean, Jalen Moore, is he an upgrade over McGlinchey? It doesn't look like it. Colton McKivitz, he's got an MCL sprain. They got Blake Hance, who they signed a couple weeks ago, but I really haven't seen him do much. So I don't know if Blake Hance is any better than McGlinchey. So we basically we're kind of stuck, So, yeah, I agree, man. He is pretty tough, but he is pretty bottom barrel. But they don't have any depth pieces, for that. So that's kind of something they definitely got to look into next year. I don't think he'll be back next year. I mean, he was a top 10 pick, and he hasn't really played like a top 10 pick in his career. You know, I know people go and defend him and say, oh, he's so great. Watch the film. He had a couple bad plays. I know, man. He's just not like dominant. He just doesn't dominate. If you're a top 10 right tackle, I don't care if you just, you have a couple bad plays. You need to dominate. Nobody talks about Mike McGlinchey and they're like, oh, he's going to dominate this game. That's the problem. And I know, like, I was looking at Twitter today and people are defending Mike McGlinchey. Oh, you guys only look at a handful of bad plays. No, he does not fucking dominate the game. I'm sorry. He gets pushed around on a weekly basis, man. He does not dominate the game. I'm sorry. If you're a top 10 pick, dominate the fucking game. I'm sorry. If you disagree, that's cool. He just doesn't dominate. If you're a top 10 pick, I need you to be an X factor. I need you to be an all-pro player, a Pro Bowl player, no questions asked. That's it. That's my take on it. But, you know, you got people defending him because they watch the film and they say, oh, the film don't lie. Get your shit checked. Get your eyesight checked because I don't see it. I don't see it. That's my take on it. I could be completely wrong. What do I think about the idea of trading Bosa? Baller dash. No. Bosa did have probably his worst game as a pro last week. And now people are saying trade him. Hell no. Nick Bosa is still one of the top players in the league defensively. He's still one of the front runners for Defensive Player of the Year. This guy's a phenomenal player. He's at the peak of his career. You know, he's just getting started. He came off a groin injury. Definitely was slow. He definitely made some big mistakes. The penalties, I'm not going to forgive him. I'm not going to sit there and give him a pass. He did mess up. He f***ed up 100%. And he owned it, though. Bosa owned it. And he says, I got to play better. They knew how to take him out. The Chiefs were smart enough to figure out how to make Bosa a non-factor for most of the game. They know how to play. He was frustrated. You get super aggressive with Bosa. You complicate him. You frustrate him. You double him. You hold him. You do whatever you can to get in his head. It was mind game. And shout out to Andy Reid. Andy Reid, again, I've talked about this all week. Andy Reid put on a masterclass of how to beat Nick Bosa. And he did it. He schooled the Niners in every aspect of the game. So shout out to Andy Reid, man. He took Bosa out of the game. But hell no, you don't trade Nick Bosa. He's your best player on defense. He's a leader. He's a captain. You do not trade Nick Bosa. Hell no. You take away Nick Bosa, this team is just bad. They take a huge step back on defense. There's no one you trade him for. There's no way. You trade him, this defense plummets. I know they didn't play too hot this week, but the defense plummets without Nick Bosa. He sets the edge. I know he didn't do it this week. He's one of the best at setting the edge. Pressure rates are insane. He's still the NFL. He's still tied for the lead in sacks in the NFL. He's missed games and he had his worst game of his career. He still leads the NFL in sacks. He's tied for it. He's still tied for the NFL lead in sacks after his worst game of his career. You do not trade Nick Bosa. But there are people, and it's not. I don't think Eric's saying he wants. Trust me, I know Eric's my boy. He's a big time follower. I think what he's saying is, you know, there's people on Twitter that are asking, and he's echoing that. He's just asking that question because there's people out there saying it's not Eric. He's just asking the question, just relaying the message. So I don't want people to go off on my boy Eric. He's just asking the question, and my answer to that is hell no. Appreciate you, Sean. McGlinchey's worn down. Yeah. It all leads back to Kyle. 100%. He's the coach. You got to prepare your players. We've talked all about Kyle this week. He's got to get his together. Got to get your stuff together, Kyle. But again, this is the best medicine is playing the Rams. Kyle Shanahan against the Rams. Jimmy Garoppolo against the Rams. In the regular season, for the most part, they know how to do it. They know what to do. They know how to beat these guys in the regular season. So for Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan, it's a battle. If Kyle Shanahan wants to get back on track, you know what you got to do. Run the ball, make good decisions, and don't put your team in a bad position. If you're on the goal line, I need you to run the ball. I don't need you to throw a pass with Jimmy Garoppolo. What are you throwing? That pass, he throws it 30 yards in the air to go 2 yards. You're at the goal line, run the ball. Those are the things. You got to not settle for field goals. You know, you got to put points on the board. And the Rams, they're definitely not as good as the Chiefs. So this is a game that we definitely could win. It's the NFC West division game. They're going to be tough, but the Rams are not as good as the Chiefs. So we played an elite echelon team, a top quality team. And after losing to the Chiefs, you sit there and you realize the Niners are not going to be able to beat a top tier team at the moment, right now, the way they're playing. They're just not. If they were in the Super Bowl right now, somehow, and they had to play the Bills or the Chiefs, they'd get just shellacked unless they figure out how to adjust. That's what this game taught us. This game taught us they're not a top tier team. They're not an elite team. So if you see rankings out right now and the Niners are like not even close to top 10, it should be like that because they are not even close to the top 10 the way they play against a top tier team. They got a long way to go. Now, can they get there? Yes, they have good talent. They have a great team, but it all starts with execution, coaching, and limiting your mistakes. And right now, they're far from a top 10 team. That's it. That's what this game showed us, that they are not one of the better teams in the league right now. And it's okay. They can be. They were like that last year. They started off really bad, and they were definitely not a top 10 team to start the year. They pulled it together, and they got better, and they were one of the last 4 teams in the NFL, playoffs. So they can, but it starts with how can Kyle turn this around? You got to right the ship. And it starts this week with the Rams, the medicine. Take your medicine, beat the Rams, and that's how you get back on track. So, hey, Boogie says, I can't give D'Amico a pass for this one. He didn't get the players. Yeah, no, 100%. Like, you can't sit here and blame Kyle and not blame D'Amico. I agree with you, Boogie. This was one of the worst defensive performances I've seen for the 49ers in a long time. And that goes on D'Amico. If we're going to say that the offense was crappy because of Kyle, the defense was crappy because of D'Amico. 100%. I agree. He needs to get their players ready. You got to adjust. Second half, make the plays, make the adjustments. And they fell apart. That fourth quarter, they fell apart. Andy Reid made the adjustments, and he made D'Amico and Kyle look like high school football coaches. That's what he did. So you're absolutely right. I agree with that. Got to figure it out. Got to do it. Let's see. Some good questions here. I respect what you say. Keep the same energy for Trey Lance. I mean, we haven't seen him play much. If he sucks, I'll tell you that next year when he plays. Let's wait till he plays. We don't even know what Trey Lance is all about right now. I love the guy. I hope he gets healthy, and I can't wait to see him play. So we'll see. We really haven't seen him play. He's played a few games. So really, the jury's still out on Trey. But I will keep the same energy. If he sucks, I'll tell you next year, garbage, dookie water. But we don't know right now. I will. I promise you. I'll keep the same energy. Have we talked about McGlinchey? Oh, God, yeah. Do I think we go for a right tackle in free agency or the draft? I think they'll draft one. It seems like a draft, an offensive line draft this year. That's the way I look at it. They got a lot of mid-round picks, late-round picks. I think they're going to go O-line heavy. Right now, we'll see. That's the way I look. I mean, things can change. Definitely. I just don't know if they'll go for a free agent. That's just not their vibe. I don't know. Just not their vibe. I feel like they're going to draft heavily into offensive linemen. I would hope so. That's what I'm hoping. I mean, they do have some younger guys that are developing, like Burford and Banks. Those are your guards for the future. They did well there. Trent Williams, he's going to be around for a little bit longer. They need a center. But Nick Zakelj, the guy they drafted this year, he's kind of the project. I think that he might be the future center. So, yeah, right tackle might be the spot where they go in and draft, make a move for a right tackle. Because you absolutely need to fix that right tackle spot. So, Eric says, I bet we'll draft heavily running. Swear to God, if we Eric, if they draft a running back this year, I am sick. If you cannot draft another running back, especially in the third. If they draft a third-round running back, I'll be sick. You have TDP, you have Jordan Mason. TDP is a draft for the future, obviously. That's what it looks like, redshirt type guy. And you got Jordan Mason sitting there, collecting dust. Let me blow the dust off Jordan Mason. You still got 2 guys that are viable options, right? You got 2 viable options out there that you do not draft a running back. If they draft a running back, Eric, I'm sick. Trey Sermon, bust. TDP, we don't know because they don't use him. And then you just traded for CMC. You just went and traded for CMC. There's no reason to get a running back. And they got Elijah Mitchell, but he's got to stay healthy. So please don't get a running back. Please don't. If they get a running back next year early, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose it. Like their first pick in the 3rd round, I'm going to lose it. 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 God. Kyle loves his running backs. He does. A Boogie says, will Tevin make his way back to the practice squad? I kind of feel bad for him. He didn't do anything wrong to get cut. I think he'll make his way back to the practice squad, but you got to realize you got a lot of running backs. You just traded for CMC. You do have TDP, who you drafted in the 3rd round, right? And you have Jordan Mason, again, who's sitting there collecting dust. And you have Jeff Wilson. Like, that's the thing. Kyle Shanahan has so many running backs. It's like he loves running backs. It's like he loves them. If he doesn't know what to do, if he's like in a bind and he doesn't know what to do, and just draft a running back. So that's what it's unfortunate for Tevin Coleman because he didn't do anything wrong. But you got so many running backs, and Jason Verrett might come back. So you can't cut a wide receiver, you can't cut a linebacker, you can't cut a cornerback. You got like 5,000 running backs. They're expendable. It's unfortunate, but I do think Tevin Coleman will be back on the practice squad. Shout out to TC, man. He did nothing. He did nothing wrong. He did nothing wrong. Wouldn't mind using all our picks for an O-line. Give me a solid O-line. Give me a premium O-line. Give me a right tackle. A right tackle. Give me one. I mean, because they do have great guards right now. Burford's going to be a solid player. Banks looks like he's going to be a really solid player too. Go get me a center, unless Nick Zakelj is your guy. And go get me a right tackle. Please give me a right tackle. 100%. I agree. Jay Rip says, I'm trying to figure out why we're always the most injured team in the league. Kyle's practicing style is a strength and conditioning coaches. We've talked about this a lot. What's up, Ryan McDonald? We've talked this about a lot. I have probably one of the most I'm probably like the 49ers content creator that's talked about injuries at the most. I don't know if you guys have seen it a lot, but I mean, I've been doing like deep dives. I've been looking into this because I work in rehab. So it's like, it bothers me. It really like intrigues me of why are they always hurt? So this is a good question. I think it's a combination of all those, Joe. Like, I think it honestly is, it's everything. Like, maybe it's strength and conditioning techniques. Maybe they're outdated. They do have a guy that was in the NHL. He was in hockey who's, in charge of their strength and conditioning program. Like, no shot to him. I don't know the guy. I don't know if he's bad or whatever, but maybe your techniques are bad. Maybe Kyle Shanahan's practicing too hard. I feel like maybe that's the case. From my, viewing of practices and training camp, I know it's limited compared to, other people, and I don't have experience in other teams. Maybe I need to go to other teams' training camps. And they don't stretch a lot. I will say that. From what I noticed, they don't seem to be stretching a lot, and they're very aggressive, and their practices are very short. So you don't give your body a lot of time to heal and ramp up and, get prepared for the season. They don't play preseason, so your body's kind of cold. So you ramp up, boom, 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 go to training camp. You don't play preseason, and then you go right into the regular season, and your body's just not used to handle all that pressure. So I think it's a combination of a lot of things, Joe, and we will never know the exact reason. And then also the playing field, you got to put turf. You factor that, some percentage. It's literally a conglomerate of everything, I feel. It's everything that you just said, plus more. So it's tough. It is tough because, God, this team gets injured like so much. So long. I heard Harbaugh's practice was like 2 hours. And yeah, from what I understand from the past, practices were long. So it gives the body a lot of time to, be ready for the season, for the rigors of a season. Because you prepare your body. You practice the way you're going to play. The games are going to be 2 hours, 2.5 hours. You don't have to be like a hardcore practice for 2 hours, but you at least know that for a couple hours, your body's going to be getting some movement and you're going to be exercising, you're going to be working. And then when the game goes, you're out there for 2-3 hours, your body's a little bit more adapted to. So Eric, that's a great comment that maybe the practices aren't long enough and they're not preparing their body for a regular season, because the regular season's tough. You're getting hit, you're getting smacked, you're sitting out there for 2-3 hours, man. That's a lot of wear and tear on the body. And if you're only practicing for like an hour, you go out there for 2 hours, your body's like, oh, it's susceptible to injury. So definitely a good take there. Yeah, Real Room Service Podcast. What up, my man? Real Room Service Podcast in the building. What's good? Go follow my boy. Go check his YouTube. We've done a podcast before together. Appreciate you. Oh, sorry, my daughter texted me. But yeah, go check out my boy Real Room Service Podcast. He says I agree with you. They're not playing preseason means a lot. It does, man. You got to get your body ready for the season. That's the way I look at it. Again, I deal with injuries on a daily basis most of the time. You know, as a rehab specialist, physical therapist, like you got to put your body prepared for everything. You know, that's the way I look at it. I don't know. Ryan says, "What's the point of keeping Jordan Mason if we don't play him? It's so somebody else can't get him. Bottom line. I mean, I know we don't play him and it sucks, but if we cut him, someone's going to get him, and then they're going to have a star. Yeah, they're going to get a good player. So it's kind of petty. It's kind of okay. We're going to keep this guy so nobody else can get this guy, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So that's it, 100%. That's why you keep a guy like Jordan Mason, because if we cut him, the Rams are going to take him. Guarantee you. They don't want Cam Akers on their team, right? They're trying to ship Cam Akers away. The Niners cut him. The Rams will swoop him up and turn him into their RB1. So that's it. That's what they do. You keep him so the Rams don't get him. That's it. It sucks for Jordan Mason because he doesn't get to play, but he's also making a paycheck. So I'm sure he's okay with it. But I'm sure he wants to go out there and play and prove himself. So, yeah, it sucks for him. Oh, now we got CMC. So he's still going to be buried in that depth chart. Good question, though. That was a good question. Oh, this is a good question. Do we still have Donovan West? No, he did not get claimed. They did not bring him back to the practice squad. He was released and he vanished from the team. So unfortunate. He had a lot of potential. Just didn't pan out. He just wasn't good enough to make this team's practice squad, unfortunately. So it's tough. JR3 says, was hard for D'Amico to adjust with the dismantled defense. We were down to Jimmy Ward with one hand in a slot corner. I'll give you that. I do think that, D'Amico definitely had a hard time adjusting like we talked about, but you do have to consider some of these players weren't at their peak. But again, you knew that coming into this game, so you got to still be able to prepare. I mean, I feel like, sound like a broken record if we are always going to use injuries to an excuse, but I do see what you're saying, and I do say, like, okay, yeah, D'Amico had playing with the one-hand Jimmy Ward, right? He was playing with the Charvarius Ward with the groin pull. You were coming in with Nick Bosa, who just came in off a groin injury. So, yeah, I respect that to an extent. But at the same time, man, this is the case coming into the game. You still should be better prepared. And they fell apart at the end of the game. But also, the offense wasn't scoring enough points. You weren't putting up touchdowns. You were putting field goals up. So it's kind of two ways. If you're not going to keep your defense off the field, if you're going to let Patrick Mahomes on the field all game with your offense sputtering towards the end, he's going to figure you out. He's going to make the adjustments with Andy Reid, and you're going to die. All right? He's a great quarterback. Great quarterbacks, they'll figure you out with a great coach, and that's what happens. So part of it's on the defense, part of it's on the offense. We've talked about this all week. But, yeah, moving forward against the Rams, you got to execute. You got to keep your offense on the field. You got to not let their guys, be on the field. You cannot let Cooper Kupp on the field. He'll eat us up, especially without Emmanuel Mosley now. You got a younger cornerbacks room. Charvarius Ward still going through the groin issues. So you need to keep them off the field. You need to run the ball and do what's effective. Keep the offenses off the field. Bottom line, because your defense right now, they're banged up. So keep that offense off the field so you can use your offense and put points on the board. That's a good point, though. Do I think they'll activate Jason Verrett? Yeah, we talked about that. I do think they will tomorrow. That's my prediction. With Tevin Coleman being released, it opened up a roster spot, and I think that's for Jason Verrett tomorrow. I think he'll be activated off the PUP list. That's my prediction. Bold prediction of the week. It's not that bold. Danny Gray needs to play. Well, he just put himself in the doghouse. If you watched that last game, Danny Gray had an opportunity. I think he squandered it. And again, Niners, with Kyle Shanahan, he doesn't give these rookies a lot of chances. So when you get it, you have to make the most of it. And I think Danny Gray squandered his opportunity, unfortunately. And it sucks. But I feel like Kyle doesn't give him the chances he should have, because I think he still could have used him as like a jet sweep guy, slant screen. Like, I know they're trying to go with that go route, with Danny Gray, but Jimmy's not the guy that's going to throw that go pass. Like, he's not going to be the guy that throws that deep route. That's Trey Lance's guy. That's his deep route, wide receiver, obviously. So figure out a way to get him the ball in space. I guarantee you, if Danny Gray was on the Chiefs, Andy Reid would jet sweep him, just like he did with Mecole Hardman. He would jet sweep that man. Jet sweep, for God's sakes, Kyle. Use a jet sweep. I haven't seen Kyle Shanahan use a jet sweep in like 2 years. Oh, maybe he used one with Brandon Ayuk this year. I'll take that back. But it's very scarce. Very scarce. Got to use those jet sweeps. Be creative. The man's got like 4.2 speed? Put him on the edge. Shit. Jet sweep him. He gone. Yeah. Danny Gray, never being used. That's tough, man. Goes down to the coaches too. We have a new wide receiver coach. And that's a good point. There is a new wide receiver coach. That's true. Good call. That's true. The Ramelia, my boy. What's up, Ramelia? What's up? We got to get a pod. We got to get something going this week. Preview the game, maybe. Shoot up. Let's do something this week. He says, we'll give you guys a second pick for Jeff Wilson Jr. since Kyle doesn't believe him, and use the draft capital for CMC just to block from. Hey, I'll give you Jeff Wilson Jr. for a second round. Let's do it. Yo, let's make it happen. I'll give you Jeff Wilson Jr. You give me a second round pick. Jeff Wilson Jr. will fumble the ball for you, and you can have him. You can have him. I love Jeff Wilson Jr., but hey, ball security isn't his strong suit at that point. So let's make it happen. Let's go. Second round pick for Jeff Wilson Jr. Let's get it, baby. Oh man. Rudy with the smart comment. I like Rudy, man. He's a good dude. We gotta do a show this week. Hit me up, man. Hit me up with this week. I'll be pissed if the Rams pick up Coleman. Oh, I didn't even think of that. Maybe the Rams will pick up Coleman. Just to get the intel. Just so they can say, okay, give me all the plays. Okay, you're cut. Maybe. What does Anthony Lynn do? Sits on the sideline and wears a headset. That's what he does. He doesn't do anything. I don't think. I don't know. I appreciate you, Ramelia. Good stuff, man. We'll check in from the week. We'll get something going. Yo, there we go, baby. We're gonna have a guest this week. We'll have my boy Rudy in this week. We'll do it, baby. Maybe we'll do like Thursday or Friday. We'll see what happens. So Mario says Wilson Jr. played fine. He did good against the Chiefs. You're right. Like, he plays good. Like, there's times with Wilson, man. He can get through those openings, the holes, pause, and he runs well. He ran well against Kansas City, 100%. I do agree, though. I do think there's been times where Jeff Wilson Jr., ball security was an issue, and, he put the ball on the turf a couple times. He's turned it over a few times, but he's ran effectively. When he's on, he's on. And then Jeff Wilson Jr. should have been used more this week against the Chiefs. I agree with that. He ran well against the Chiefs, but you're right. I feel like Kyle does deviate from his players a lot. He's like, okay, I don't trust him anymore. And then he just gets away from what's working. It's like Andy Reid. Whatever was working, he still did it. He kept on doing it. Kyle, he's like, oh, this is working. Let's change it. No, if it's working, just keep on doing it. Just keep running the same play until they prove they can stop you. That's the way I look at it. Yeah, I agree. Sean, I wish I had a job like Lynn. 100%, man. That's the comment of the day. That's funny. I wish I had a job like Lynn. Me too, man. Clark says, check out Ken Dorsey. Oh, I know all about Ken Dorsey. Former 49er quarterback, former Miami Hurricane quarterback back in the day, if y'all remember. Offensive coordinator out in Buffalo. He's been the guy that kind of developed Josh Allen and Cam Newton, for what it's worth. Hell of an offensive mind. I think he's a head coach in the wings somewhere. He's going to be one of the next big head coaches in the NFL. Ken Dorsey, great offensive mind, former NFL quarterback, former college quarterback for the Miami Hurricanes. Ken Dorsey's a great offensive guy. I definitely think he's going to be one of the next big head coaches in the next year or two. Eventually, he's going to be a head coach and he's going to be a hell of a coach. Yeah. He can develop quarterbacks, Eric. He can develop quarterbacks. Can you imagine Ken Dorsey developing Trey Lance? Oh, that's all I'm going to say. All I'm going to say. But yeah, Ken Dorsey, man. I love him. Former Niner, Bay Area boy. Bay Area boy. I like Ken Dorsey. That's my guy. I liked him when he was in Miami. Remember those Hurricane teams? Like, man, yeah, those teams were so good. They were so stacked. And Ken Dorsey was on top of the, on top of the world, their QB. He was good. I like Ken Dorsey. JR, does Kyle have an OC? No, he does not. We've talked about this a couple times. He does not have an offensive coordinator. He last year had Mike McDaniel. That was the first time. That Kyle Shanahan had an OC as the head coach. Mike McDaniel last year. He promoted him. And then he did such a good job that he got a head coaching job in Miami. So I definitely think that, and I've said this a lot of times, it's my opinion that I think Kyle Shanahan needs an offensive coordinator just to help him out, take some pressure. He's doing a lot, man. Being a head coach is stressful. I can only imagine. Get an OC, help you out. Maybe they see things in a different light than you do. Mike McDaniel has been it looks like he's been a big loss for the Niners. Ken coaches with heart. The game he flipped out on when the Bills lost showed more. He was disappointed in himself. That's a great comment. The game where he flipped out at the end and he throws, and he had like the meltdown. He was in shambles. Like, it was funny. Everybody used it for memes. But there was a couple players after the next day. They're like, you know what? I like that he did that because it just shows like he was so committed. Like, he's mad about losing. Like, it shows that, man, he knows they messed up. He knows they screwed up, and they don't want to make that mistake again. The guy has heart, 100%. I think Dorsey, man, again, I think he's going to be one of the next big-time head coaches in the NFL, whether it's next year or the year after, whatever the case is. He's going to be a great coach, just like Brian Daboll is right now with the Giants. I mean, God, man, Brian Daboll has been so phenomenal he's turned that team around, 6-1. And shout out to Saquon Barkley. I think that's a big part. He's been healthy. Saquon Barkley has been on a tear this year, and I'm happy to see him healthy this year. My fantasy team is too, but I'm happy to see Saquon because he's just genuinely a great player, and you root for players like that. I've liked him since he came into the league. I remember watching him in college, and I'm happy for him. The Giants, man, shout out to Daboll and the Giants, man. They turned it around. Danny Dimes, bro. He looks good right now. He's turned him around. Shout out to Brian Daboll, man. This is a good question. This is a good comment. I think he has too much on his plate as a head coach, and this is in reference to Kyle Shanahan. I said this a lot of times. I think he does too. It's a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. Just look at his beard. He looks grayed out. Grayed out like Gandalf. Mark says if the Giants get OBJ, they'll be dangerous. For the culture, they need to get OBJ back. It'd be dope to see OBJ go back to New York. I kind of want to see that. I kind of want to see OBJ go back to New York. That's where he belongs in the NFL. Go back, reunion with the Giants. I think it would be cool. Give Danny Dimes a real wide receiver. Billionaire Benji, let me see your. Yeah, I agree. I believe 49ers can turn this around. Kyle needs to stop being conservative, 100%. And if they want to turn it around, which we're talking about today, they got to be aggressive, put the pedal to the metal, and go out there and cook it out. Don't be timid. You got to be aggressive. I 100% agree. 100% agree. They can. It's still early. I agree. Turn it around by being aggressive. You still can win. Got a lot of football left. And it's a lot better if they go 4-4 instead of 3-5. Starts this weekend. Oh, this is it. Billionaire Benji says, you know what's crazy? The Chiefs DC was 0-29 down going into the fourth down, 5+ points as a head coach, and now he's a DC while Kyle is 0-26 in that stat, and he still got out coached. Wow. Read it in a week. Look at that. Chiefs DC was 0-29 going into the fourth, down 5+ points. And now he's a DC. Well, Kyle is 0-26. That's tough. That's the thing. That when the Niners don't have a lead, it's tough for the team to come back. It's tough because they can't get to their game plan. They don't know what to do. They fall apart. It's hard for them. I don't think they could make comebacks. Like, it's hard for them to come back. They don't have the team. They don't have the quarterback to make big comebacks. Like Patrick Mahomes, they're down 14, 15, whatever, a couple of points. They could come back and score in a blip. Josh Allen, he can score in a blip. He can bring a team back. You need a quality rifleman like that. You need a guy, and that's the problem, you know. So it's tough, but hopefully they can turn it around. 4-4 would be a really, really, really good way to go into the bye. Yeah, no, you're 100% right, Billionaire Benji. That is exactly why he has too much on his plate. He's just got so many things going on, trying to call the plays, trying to lead these guys. It's stressful, and I 100% agree. And then by the time you're losing, you don't even know what the hell to do. You're like, at least if you had OC, you'd have a guy that say, hey, look, we need to focus on this, and just pull you aside. You look at things a different way, because having an extra pair of hands to help you, or a pair of eyes, you see things that somebody might not. Like, sometimes you watch a game with someone, and they're like, boom, look at this. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even see that. You might see it later when you watch the game again, but when you're seeing it with another pair of eyes, they see things that you don't sometimes. So 100%. Clark, sweeping the Rams would be nice, very nice. It would be absolutely amazing if we sweep the Rams, pull out the brooms. But, the problem is, if the Niners sweep them, we're going to be talking too much. I'm not even going to lie. The Niners, we talk a lot after a win, so I know we're going to be talking if we get that dub. But it's rightfully so. JR, yeah, we talked about this. Juice's injury, massive. Brian Burns to SF. Says Kyle only has a job because of his last name. Mike Shanahan, his daddy, made a name off his dad. Believe it. Let's go and get a couple more questions in here. I appreciate you guys. Good show today. I love you. Love the energy in here today. Good questions. You guys keeping the chat really nice. And other than a few bots, everybody's pretty good, pretty respectful. I try to get to all the comments as I can. Steve-O! My man Steve-O says, he needs to start listening to Debo. Good things happen when he listens to Debo. And good things happen, Steve-O, when he throws the ball to Brandon Ayuk. So both of those things need to happen. Get the ball to Brandon Ayuk and Debo. I like your PFP. It has the Yak brothers in there, Debo and Ayuk. Get the ball to both of them. Only 41 years old, too. Wow. Crazy. We need the 3-game sweep on the Rams. We all know what I'm saying. NFC champ game. Hey, if the Niners and the Rams so happen to make it to the playoffs and play again, definitely need to beat them in that game too. But I honestly think that only one team out of the NFC West is coming out of the playoffs this year. Is the way I look at it. You got to win the division to make these playoffs this year. Will Kalia Davis play this year? I don't think so. I think it's a redshirt year for him. He's got an ACL. It's kind of similar to Kentavious Street when he was drafted. I think they're going to redshirt him this year, and he'll be in the team next year. What happened to Jason Poe? He's still on the team. He's still around. He's still on the team. All right. Final couple questions, wrapping it up. Sacktown says, what happens if Verrett doesn't play against the Rams? So let's clarify that one more time. Jason Verrett, he can be called up from the PUP tomorrow and be activated. If they activate Jason Verrett tomorrow, he can play against the Rams, but it doesn't mean that he has to play. They have to activate him off the PUP list to actually be on the roster and play this year at any point. So if they activate him tomorrow, then he's on the roster. And then whether he's ready to go, that'll be determined. But if he doesn't get activated tomorrow, he cannot play this season. That's the rule of the PUP list and, practice window being activated. So he doesn't necessarily guarantee he'll play against the Rams, but they can stash him away, basically. So if he gets activated tomorrow and he doesn't play against the Rams, they can stash him on the roster until they're ready to use him. So that's the answer to that. Our injury update, we'll see tomorrow. The team goes back to practice tomorrow. Kyle Shanahan yesterday on his update said there is a chance that Armstead can play this Sunday, but we have to see how practice goes the next couple of days. So we'll have a clearer picture tomorrow. So we'll answer that tomorrow. Yeah, Clars, this is basically the theme of the day. The team can turn it around. It all depends on Kyle Shanahan. The D-line is really missing Arc, says Brian Burns to SF. I 100% agree. The run defense is struggling without Armstead. 100%. Fios God says Niners will beat the Rams and everybody will be happy. We will still have some problems. Coach QB flags. 100%. I agree. If we win, the vibes are going to be up for 2 weeks and it's going to be crazy. But it does feel good to win games. So if we can beat the Rams, we'll be happy for at least 2 weeks until the next game. Y'all have a good rest of your day. Appreciate you. Bang, bang, Nana Gang. Hit the like button, and I'll talk to you later. I love you. Have a good one.